Morning. Got my cup of tea. Sunday morning. A little bit of a hangover from last night. And today we're going to talk about the idea or the concept of one watch only and why I believe for those with smaller wrists like myself and for those with a wallet that might not want to accommodate a Rolex Explorer or a Submariner, so about around $1,000 why the Christopher Ward C63 Sealander in 36mm is probably your best bet for one watch only under $1,000. Now, when I think of one watch only, based on my years in the hobby and my experience in buying watches, selling watches, and finding out what I like, aspects of watches that I like, if I were to have a one watch only criteria list, it would have 3 items. The first one's the brand. The brand has to play a role. The brand has to be a watch brand. Has to be a substantial watch brand. It doesn't have to be a Rolex, doesn't have to be a Cartier, but they have to be a watchmaking brand with a focus in watchmaking. So it can't really be an AliExpress homage. I would also rule out micro brands that haven't been around for very long. And as you know, Christopher Ward started off as a micro brand, but we'll get into that. Second point is size and comfort. I have skinny 6-inch wrists. They're skinny and they're even skinnier during the winter. So I have to know that the watch that I'm having as my one watch only, I'm going to be able to grab and go at any points throughout the day, at any times throughout the year. So any season, regardless of how much my wrist grows or shrinks, I'm going to have to be comfortable grabbing and going. Thirdly is the design and aesthetics. Having one watch only, you're tied to that one watch for the rest of your life. You're tied to that same design over and over again. Yeah, sure, you can do strap changes, but the vibe of the watch doesn't really change. So for me, the design and aesthetics has to match my daily dress and fashion choices, and that's probably going to have to be a relatively basic black dial sports / dress watch. So let's first talk about the brand of the Christopher Ward C63 Sealander in 36mm. So Christopher Ward was started in 2005 by 3 Englishmen in Berkshire, United Kingdom, I believe, and they started it in an ex-chicken farm, right? And they had 3 philosophies when they started the brand. The first one was there were no celebrity endorsements, so no David Beckham for Tudor and so on and so forth. They wanted to save marketing costs in that aspect. The second one was direct to consumer, so e-commerce website selling straight from their website to consumers, so no third-party retailers, so on and so forth. And the last one is probably the most interesting one, and the one that I respect the most, is no more than 3 times markup. Because when they were starting out Christopher Ward, they found that brands were charging as much as 30 times markup for their watches. And so Christopher Ward said, look, we're going to make luxury, quality built timepieces without that big markup. Now, if that doesn't sell you on what Christopher Ward started off as, and now 20 years later, they've created all these amazing and beautiful timepieces, I'm going to read you out a few list of achievements from the brand itself. And I'll have this written down. And so the most prominent achievement I would say Christopher Ward has that distinguishes them from a micro brand and puts them in a position to be a fully fledged watchmaking brand in the industry is they recently won an award in essentially the Oscars of timepieces and watchmaking. And now I'm going to butcher this, but it's called the Grand Prix de Horlogerie de Geneva, and their Bel Canto watch won an award in the 2023 version of that event. And to make it even more impressive, I'm gonna read you some of the brands in attendance for the event and some of the ones that actually won an award alongside Christopher Ward. So we have AP, Audemars Piguet, we have Tudor, we have Piaget, Raymond Wield, Ulysse Nardin, and also Bulgari. So those are some of the names that actually won an award as well. Let's not even mention those who were nominated and didn't win, especially in the same category as the Christopher Ward Bel Canto. Now, I know this is not the Christopher Ward Bel Canto, but for me, if a watch brand can win an award, essentially the Oscars of watchmaking as a micro brand, having been in the game for 20 years, it's hard to really call them a micro brand anymore, and especially when they're producing watches of this quality. So if that's not enough for you, let me read you a few more, okay? They have an in-house caliber movement, the SH21, that's COS certified. Their proprietary light catcher case, which is present here on the C63 Sealander. And can I also consider the 12 as an achievement, just because of how quickly they were able to answer, Tissot's PRX, which blew up in the market a couple of years ago, and they came up with the 12, and arguably it's a much better watch than the PRX, and I'll stop bashing the PRX about now. So really, it's not just their growth within the 20 years that's really impressive, it's their consistency, sticking to those 3 principles, making sure that their watches are first and foremost of high build quality and affordable and accessible to everyone. And last but not least, their 60/60 offer is something that no micro brand out there will do for you. 60 days free warranty wherever you are, and 60 months, so 5 years of movement warranty wherever you are. With a micro brand, you'll be lucky to get anywhere from 1 to 2 years. With Christopher Ward, they're giving you 5 years, and that's not something a micro brand would do. And that's why Christopher Ward, as much as I'm a bit of a micro brand, I wouldn't say hater, but a bit of a doubter. I don't like watches without much of a heritage behind the brand, or brand history or story behind it. But arguably, Christopher Ward, they are the founder of this micro brand movement in watchmaking. And they are now, I couldn't consider them a micro brand anymore because of what they've done and how far they've come in the industry, when you have these other giants, Japanese, German, Swiss, to fight against, and they've come and established their own presence in the industry. That's respectable, and that's something that I can't take away from them, and therefore I cannot look at them with that same micro brand doubter or hater mentality, because they're no longer a micro brand. They're a full-fledged watchmaking brand, and that's why it ticks that first criteria on my list, which is brand heritage and history. Now, the second criteria on my list is size and comfort. Obviously, that's probably the most important part about being a one watch only. It has to be comfortable and has to be sized to correctly fit your wrist. So the Christopher Ward here, 36 millimeters, 11 mil thick, and about 43 millimeters lug to lug. So extremely, extremely wearable for those with smaller wrists. And even for my skinny 6-inch wrist, it's perfect. The weight is not too bad, right? It's relatively distributed throughout the watch. So the bracelet carries some of the weight, the watch head carries some of the weight. So we're really fine there in terms of comfort. What I do appreciate most about the size and comfort of the Christopher Ward Sealander in 36 is I don't hesitate when I go for it in the morning. I have a lot of other watches, and sometimes I wake up in the morning and I think, okay, which one do I want to wear to the office today? I look at some of my bigger watches or heavier watches and I go, that's probably not going to be comfortable after a couple of hours. I look at some other watches that perhaps is a bit smaller, and I go, well, if my wrist swells up throughout the day, then the bracelet's going to be tight, and so that's going to be another nuisance. I'm going to have to take it off, put it on my desk for a couple of hours, wait for my wrist to swell down before I pick it back up and go for it again. So the thing is, with the Christopher Ward, that's never occurred to me. I've always been able to just grab it and go. It's always been my default as well. So in my watch box, I'd have other watches in there. And if I wake up during the day and I don't know what to wear, my wrist is feeling extra small because it's the winter, I naturally go for the Christopher Ward. And it's a watch that is comfortable from the second you put it on in the morning all the way to nighttime when you get off for work or wherever you are. It's a watch that truly represents the idea of a grab and go. And if this is my consistent winner in my watch box, then it's hard to argue the fact that it possibly is and can be my one watch only if I ever decide to go down that route, which I won't. And I will say a big part of the comfort here as well is the on-the-fly adjustment that Christopher Ward has built into the bracelet, where you can actually adjust the fit of the bracelet on the fly wherever you are. It's just a sliding mechanism that you can unlock on the side of the clasp. And to me, that's genius for a watch that's $1,000. First of all, that's unheard of. At least when the watch first came out a couple of years ago. Now there's a bit more on the fly adjustment clasp, but it's fantastic. I will say though, sizing the bracelet is a bit of a nuisance just because of how well everything is fit and finished. Sometimes too premium is not good, just because the average non-watchmaker can't adjust the bracelet. But once you get a good fit with the bracelet, with the links, the on-the-fly adjustment class is just a plus, and it's fantastic for those with smaller wrists. Now, last but not least, the third criteria on my list is design and aesthetics. Obviously, if you're going to have just one watch, you're going to make damn well sure that that one watch is going to carry you throughout all the, not only all scenarios, but also your preferences, your changes in preferences, right? Sometimes I look at a Richard Mille and I go, wow, that's really nice. But then 2 weeks later, I'm like, oh, that's quite out there. So you want something that's timeless, something that's classic, something that what I call basic without being boring, and also dressy and sporty at the same time. So you can wear it for all occasions, and you can wear it for a long time and have longevity, because you're not going to get bored necessarily of the design, just because it's what a wristwatch is supposed to look like, right? Just a time telling instrument. And the Christopher Ward C63 Sealander is that. It's a time telling instrument. It's sporty and dressy at the same time, and it's basic and it's not boring. And the big reason why this is or could be my one watch only, based on my criteria and an affordable price, is because it does resemble the aesthetics of a Rolex Explorer 36mm, which is my grail, as you all know, but I'm not going to buy it just because it's too expensive and I don't want to maintain the servicing cost of it. But Christopher Ward Christopher Ward doesn't hide the fact that this is an inspiration from the Explorer style of watches, 36mm bracelet, strap monster, black dial, and relatively simple three-hander with a date. It doesn't hide the fact that, they've taken inspirations from it. And it's not an homage either. It's not an AliExpress homage. It's its own watch entirely. It has the light catcher case, which is fantastic under different lights and under the sunlight. It's absolutely amazing. And it's just a timepiece that you can look at it and go, you know what, I'd be okay with this. I'd be happy with it. Obviously, as a watch collector, as a watch enthusiast, if you've been in the hobby long enough, one watch only is a bit of a concept. It's an elusive dream that I'm sure we all think that we can achieve, but I would doubt that I would be able to do it, just because my preferences do change quite often, and I do want to try out a lot of different watches. That's what keeps the hobby alive for me, right? The journey of chasing a watch, as opposed to buying that one watch that you want and then ending it there. I would rather chase 10, 20 watches and enjoy the thrills of buying and then going, oh, it's probably not the watch for me, and then buying another one and then researching, as opposed to going, okay, look, you know what, tomorrow I'm going to go buy my Rolex Explorer 36 and then I'll be done, right? Because then what then there's no more fun in the watch hobby. And maybe that's just an excuse for me to not spend the money on a Rolex and keep on buying and experiencing watches. But that's what I find fun and what I find worth it. I posed this question to myself: if I were to go to my 16-year-old self and gave him this watch and said, look, take this watch for free, you won't have to, the catch is you can't buy any other watches in the future, and you have to wear this for the rest of your life, would you say yes? And now my 16-year-old self would probably say yes, just because it's a free watch. But if you gave it to me now, I'd probably say no, even if it's for free, just because I do want to go out there and experience more watches. And so I want to pose the same question to you. What's your idea of a one watch only? What is your one watch only? And if someone came to you today and gave you that one watch only for free and said, the catch is though, you cannot buy any other watches ever again, and you have to keep this one watch only for the rest of your life, would you say yes? Would you take the deal? Or are you going to be like me and reject it because you enjoy actually the journey of watch collecting? Let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you in the next episode.